You know what? It's time to check out some speakers, and I probably should also explain what's up with the video title, because yes, while today's speakers for their size offer quite the amount of power, there also are things you need to watch out for. You'll even get to hear a demo, so you know what exactly I'm talking about. But don't be intimidated by that so quickly, because those that actually know what they're doing with these active Bluetooth speakers could end up with an amazing setup for streaming for use with a smartphone or TV. We are talking of the Wavemaster Cube Mini Neo 36-watt speakers, even equipped with a digital connection, a remote control, as well as some extension options. However, at a current pricing of roughly $130 US, at least over here in Europe, this 2.0 system sure cannot be considered super affordable, to say the least. I'm not even sure if you can buy these in the US. Well, I have the bamboo version here, but this set can also be picked up in black or in a beautiful white. Now, what are the good as well as the ugly things about this particular speaker setup? Now, in terms of what comes included, not too shabby. First of all, the classic speaker cable, just like in the old days, RCA to 3.5mm as well as a separate 3.5mm audio cable, the power cable, a small remote control for which 2 AAA batteries are already included, and yeah, of course there's also the user manual for you avid readers out there. As I've already noticed and pointed out previously when I tested the Wavemaster bass speakers, the build quality is very high. This also applies to today's Cube Mini Neos, so quality-wise, there's nothing I could actually complain about, which however, at a price of over $100 should be more than expected. What I noticed right away is that these things are pretty small in size, given the fact that they come with an RMS output of 36 watts, so the naming Cube Mini Neo seems to fit just perfectly. Hiding behind that metal mesh is that 10cm woofer mid-range, as well as the 25mm tweeter at the top. By the way, the woofer / mid-range is a cellulose cone, while the tweeter is silk dome. And nope, that mesh doesn't really come off that easily. The main speaker, the right one, comes with RCA inputs for left and right channels, an additional 3.5mm input, a Toslink optical input for high-resolution digital signals with up to 24 bits and 96 kHz, and now hold on tight, a bit of an option for extension for you bass heads out there, a subwoofer output. That one offers the connection of an active subwoofer to allow for even more and better low-frequency results. And then there are the usual connections to connect both speakers with each other, the power input as well as switch. In the front of the same speaker is a dial as well as a power source switch in one. By turning the dial, you adjust the volume level, and by pressing, you power on off as well as switch between input sources, be it Bluetooth, line in, etc. Positioned to the left of that dial is our infrared sensor for the remote control. By using the remote, we get some nice additional functions for more customization, because besides the usual functions such as power on off, volume up down, source, there's also a mute button as well as bass and treble buttons, meaning we can achieve our own custom sound with more or less bass or treble. The 0 in the center resets the settings to their default neutral values by a single press. Interesting are the top 2 buttons, Tone Defeat and Loudness. Tone Defeat basically allows for our user-defined sound we achieved by using those bass and treble buttons to be enabled or disabled without losing our settings. The Loudness button, on the other hand, gives us some sort of sound correction to compensate the loss of the low frequency range at a low volume. This function can be enabled or disabled. The effects of it, however, will only really be noticeable at lower volume levels. Well, that's quite a lot of theory I've told you guys about, but most of you simply want to know what kind of sound these speakers actually output. But before I talk about that, I'd like you guys to listen to a sound test first. I know, I'm totally aware that this is just plain stupid and an almost impossible mission. No need to tell me that. But I'm hearing over and over again that to some such sound tests do actually give away some sort of indication on what to expect in real life. After all, there are a few things one can notice. Of course, a healthy dose of fantasy is required for that, because recordings, as much effort we put into those, it's near impossible to capture it the way you hear it in real life. So for you, I have prepared 4 scenarios with these speakers. One at a decent volume level of about 50%, whereas the source volume always remains at 100% at all times, then the speakers at their 100% volume, and following that, back down to 50%, but with max bass and treble settings respectively. To make the comparison a little unfair, I've also included the raw MP3 playback. An important piece of information here, I've synchronized the sound levels of all these recordings as best as I could. And now, let's play some music. So before I move on, I'd like to point out that I'm nowhere near to being a professional when it comes to audio stuff. I do hear the differences between good and bad, but unfortunately I do not possess the gift to be able to describe the experience in proper words. Long story short, the experience with these Cube Mini Neo speakers is surprisingly good. The speakers obviously sound their best at a more reasonable volume level. That's where we get a nice, full, rich and balanced sound output. A sound that pretty much sounds good with close to all kinds of music genres. Should you, however, still be unhappy with the result, there's always a way to improve and customize something with those bass and treble buttons. But watch out, at max volume, especially with pieces of music with quite a bass punch, the woofer quickly gets to its limits. We quickly run into some nasty distortions. Dangerous vibrating and swinging can already be heard from time to time, even when going for maximum bass at 50% volume. So that's where you need to watch out a bit. But I find it brave of the manufacturer to allow for more flexibility, even though that can quickly backfire if done wrong. So this is where a healthy dose of common sense comes in. As long as you don't do anything crazy, you should end up being pretty happy with this particular setup. But sure, with speakers or audio equipment in general, it's always a matter of preference. I may like it this way, others like it the other way, and so on and so forth. It's just the pricing that bothers me personally. $90 to $100 would certainly seem more appropriate to me. $130 is a bit much if you're asking me. Aside from that, from a technical standpoint, these wavemaster Cube Mini Neo speakers with a decent amount of features end up being pretty good. I can recommend picking these up. But sure, there are lots of good options out there nowadays. Lots of choice. So I hope this video didn't bore you to death. Thanks for watching, guys.